we need to see Junhao have a better game in game number 2. That is essential.
The Lee Sin was not it. I'm sorry.
The Lee Sin was not working. You wanted to go for those early exchanges on the Lee Sin. You want to be able to try and play for that pressure with the Rise. It didn't happen. I like pivoting back to something that is a little bit more straightforward in terms of how it wants to fight, how it wants to play out the mid game, but some pretty classic answers here. It's going to be the Varus. We highlighted that is what I would consider to be the best AD carry. This is certainly the most consistent in the game right now, especially with Ezreal off the board. And the Skarner, which I'm really excited about. We already saw Xiaofeng have a really nice overall macro game. This gives him even more setup for this potential second game.
It's definitely less of emphasis on him himself, right? But trying to figure out how working through that situation as the Skarner, we're still having impact, but still also having like consistent pressure on Junhao will be very important. But with this MF and the Sylas pick, they have a lot of flexibility in their damage profile for Ultra Prime.
Yeah, this is raw comfort for Ultra Prime, which I think is absolutely what you should be looking at in game number 2. You want to get Saber on something that he can be aggressive on in lane, but it's going to be answered with something equally as aggressive on the other side, the Jace that, you know, we've seen both Zika and Haichao have success on in the past. So excited to see that. The Misfortune also kind of fitting in a little bit easier here, but definitely not the
I like the Yorick bid.
Yeah, you got, well, hey, you know, we saw what can happen with Yorick earlier on today in the 1v1. You don't want to risk that. I do love the Taliyah ban, though. That was the number one thing I was going to point out here, is that Taliyah being open really kind of scares me for Ultra Prime. I think taking that off the board is essential to be able to make sure that you can run around and open up the map. But it's going to be just a lot of those ignore me top laners that you want to get out of the way. You want to force Zhang to actually play the game here.
They have banned away every champion that Zhang has played so far this split. So, you know, they have a particular focus in the second phase. Well, more so because the Rumble was taken by, you know, Ultra Prime in that first one. But it is also going to be a situation where now you have to think of where these flex picks are going to be going. We get the Poppy ban to follow through with that one, but we still have a lot of choices left to decide where things are going. The Aurora going to make things a little bit more clear for LNG.
Yeah, I like the Aurora here. I think it gives you a lot of combat power, which I really think you needed moving on. You need something to follow up on the Skarner. I think the support here is really going to tell us a lot towards what direction LNG want to play in terms of their laning phase and just how much pressure they want to put towards that bottom side of the map. But once again, it's just one of those ultimates that Sylas isn't going to be taking over the game on. It can be useful, but you want to make sure you don't trap yourself in that regard. It's going to be the Rel. You want to combo Misfortune Ultimate some way, somehow. The Rel is a very notable partner, and you know, I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see the Mbessa locked in here. Again, just something safe that you don't have to worry about for Zhang on the top side.
Yeah, and giving him a little bit more onus to be a carry potential there for that backline access. To Renata, though, it makes it so difficult for Xin Zhao, for Sylas, for Rel, for Mbessa to really have an impact. And that hostile takeover can ruin the plans of a bullet time as well. So Ultra Prime, they definitely need to find the wiggle room that they can operate in these fights, because there's a lot of lockdown and a lot of space provided for LNG's comp.
Yeah, I am a little bit scared for Ultra Prime in that if they do what they did last game and draft, you know, a jungler that wants to skirmish, wants to be active, and a mid laner who wants to ideally get out on the map and try and, you know, move things and, you know, affect the mid game, if they don't do that, this is another game where that just gets south real quick, where you need to have that priority because you're relying on Misfortune to be able to set up a lot of these mid-game fights. You're relying on the ability for the Sylas to start snowballing, and the longer you let this game go, I'm not so sure you win in the late game here. I'm certainly not sure you win from a neutral state. So the onus is definitely going to be on Ultra Prime once again, and we're going to need to see some renewed action from them in the early game, in my opinion.
And you have to remember all the stakes that come with this series. LNG, they're searching for their first win. They've tried different pieces. They put LP in. Now they have Xiaofeng. They're trying to get something to work for them to stave off the darkness that is a potential finish after Split 2 for the rest of the year. Ultra Prime, they're so close. They're teetering on the edge. Can they join the 2-0 group and put themselves in that upper echelon of the group Nirvana team? Or is it going to be them joining the 1-1 pack and having a little bit more hesitancy in how they move forward? LNG on the precipice of getting their first series win, though, is something to be lauded. And after that kind of performance they had in that game number 1, it looked dominant. Here we go as we head into game number 2. No Gyos. None.
Yeah.
whatsoever. Not even a cheer. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
LNG got some more cheers after that one. Winning helps, it seems. You know, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, who would have seen that coming? Being a team that is fun to watch, makes more fans appear. But, you know, I think they're in a good spot here going into game number 2. Again, I think they have the onus of the scaling on their side. Also, one thing I want to point out from their draft that I didn't really mention before, their engage is very easy. It is very simple. You don't have to worry too much. You have so many different ways to be able to start a fight the later this goes. I do think you're relying a bit more on side lanes if you are Ultra Prime, and that even increases the responsibility of Saber, of even Jiang, and of course of Junhao in this early game to do something. I'm interested to see where the pathing ends up going, but once again, it doesn't look like anything crazy is going to be happening here at level 1.
And we get to our same matchups as LP is going to be on the lethal tempo train here, so going with that kind of on-hit style of the Varus first and foremost. Maybe not leaning into the poke. I thought maybe with the Jace they'd go with the double poke comp that worked out for them in game number 1. But now going for the level 1 in bot lane, trying to get this 2v2 action kicked off.
I do like the lethal tempo here a bit more. I think you can definitely play for the poke win condition with the Jace. It's obviously very difficult for, you know, Ultra Prime to be able to play into that with all of the melee champions that they have available to them, but I like playing for these late game team fights, and Varus is going to be a bit more of a threat in those team fights with that lethal tempo, with that on hit, and so I like this idea. You need to not lose this bot lane if you're the Misfortune. Of course, it's going to be difficult early with the Renata being such a problem on Zhuo, but for now, I'm just going to be intrigued to see where these junglers put their pressure. Again, no onus really on Xiaofeng, in the same way that it wasn't in game number 1. You got to make sure that you don't throw away that scaling advantage you have, and that onus is on Junhao now, and it's going to be interesting to see if the Xin Zhao is going to be more active than the Lee Sin was.
I was just so happy to see Xiaofeng perform the way he did in game number 1. Obviously got the Lilia, a little bit of comfort for him, but it's more so just the way that he kind of kept the pressure up onto Junhao. Now see if this Garner can be much the same. We're fighting over vision here. Celsius like, am I going to get it? Am I going to pop the scanner? I'm going to wait till you walk away. Nope, nothing else is going to happen there. It is still returning to these jungle paths, though. It was the opposite side pass for both of them. So a little bit of top lane focus potentially for Junhao, and a little bit of bot lane focus for Xiaofeng.
Yeah, I don't think it's particularly good to see, first of all, nice trade here from Zika, but I really don't think it's a good sign to see Saber already down 10 CS in this lane. This is really not how Sylas and Aurora is supposed to go. Sylas definitely wants to try to play more aggressive in the early game, wants to try to, you know, keep pressure so that he can move around the map. If Aurora is going to be, you know, creating that pressure herself, that's going to be scary. Junhao could try to pull something back here, but this is a tough game.
Haichao doing a really good job of keeping pressure up. See if now it's going to be enough. Okay, Xiaofeng needs to activate. Wind becomes lightning. Not going to connect. Still going with the audacious charge there. Trying to go through now with some damage from Xiaofeng. It's a decent trade and back-ending the fight. Still LNG come out the better of it because they do have this lane advantage for Haichao.
Yeah, and credit to Haichao in that regard. Again, like I said, the Sylas should be in a good spot here. Xiaofeng, though, not done trying to look for plays. It's once again a potential play on the top side here.
Immediate going for the Exal's Impact. Gonna miss. Gonna try to go for the damage on this Young. Is tanking up. Flash is coming through. The slowdown there from the Earth. Is it gonna be enough? Going for another one. Young gets out there. TP coming in now. This will be a massive join from Saber. Trying to stave off this point on the turret here. It will be that plate taken, though, by LNG. They get a lot of action early.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right play to make there to try to look for something top lane. Obviously, burning the summoner spell of Ambessa is really crucial. This Jace is going to be in a very strong spot. Zika already a player that we were counting on for LNG, and it's looking really good as he teleports back to the top lane. But that's a teleport coming in from Saber that might have worked before some of the teleport changes. Unfortunately, it's just a little bit slower now, and that means there's nothing to grab for the Sylas. It's that summoner essentially burned for nothing, and it's going to reset on the map. When you look at objectives spawning now, though, you got to be even more careful. Jiang has no flash and no teleport available, and Saber also has no teleport. And so if these grubs are going to spawn and you want to prioritize that, you got to make that decision early.
Looks like LNG are going to sit pretty here. Not going to bring up LP or Zhuo into this setup. into the top side. So gonna keep things as they are for now, as those grubs are gonna be spawning. Remember last time around, Ultra Prime trying to go for that counter with that dragon setup, but now on blue side, definitely leaning up towards this top side. Zika going for the trades, has the level advantage, but it might just be a bait. Now Young trying to go forward. Zika losing his health bar here. Wind becomes lightning, doesn't connect again for Junhao. Trying to move back over to the grubs now.
And it's once again a Junhao gank that just is a little bit off, just a tad bit in the wrong direction, but it does give them the priority to get those grubs, and this is big for Ultra Prime. You know, they had opportunities to be able to prioritize this in the previous game, but we could actually see some contest here.
Missing the Xtal's impact, but they have Haichao moving first, and he has ultimate. Saber also going to have his, can steal something away here. Maybe the Impale, maybe the Between Worlds. Junhao going to come around the corner. There's the Control Ward tussle coming down. When it becomes lightning, connects that time. Gonna get some trades off. There's that Between Worlds stolen by Saber. Gonna get some trades. Haichao doing a really good job of putting Saber off this fight. That will be the 1-to-1 grub setup. Haichao's impact. Oh, Junhao's completely by himself now. All by his lonesome and taken down. First blood for LNG.
What? What happened? Where did they all go? Junhao just walks up to the top lane and just completely forgets about the rest of his team. He leaves himself open to the freest engage I've seen for Xiaofeng, and once again, it's another mistake made by Junhao in the early game here as we see a trade on the bot side. Wako taking a lot of damage, but it's these small mistakes from Ultra Prime that have been consistent in the beginning of these games across both of the first two games in this series that have led to LNG generating advantages, and that's 2 grubs over. They're going to be in a good spot to fight for the next upcoming grubs, and Dragon is still on the board for them as well.
Yeah, and you can obviously tell if you're looking in the cameras, he's very frustrated with himself, but understandable in those kinds of moments when you just have that awkward pathing, and LNG will take full advantage of it. Not going to be a slouch. He did end up getting evened up in his jungle advantage. He had like 10-15 CS over Xiaofeng, but not going to have that anymore. And maybe we now readapt our focus down towards this bot side and get ready for a dragon take of some sort with the grubs not for a while in 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the lack of pressure as Wako uses bullet time to clear the wave there. It's interesting to see the lack of priority on this dragon, because I would have thought that LNG would really like to start stacking these moving forward. It's not going to be Cloud Soul, which is really the only one I would have been scared of for this comp in particular. It feels like it's going to just be something very useful. Haichao has some nice trading in the mid lane, so definitely surprised to see the lack of immediate priority there coming in from Xiaofeng, especially after the teamfight win, but a lot of the individual leads in lanes have been neutralized. I think that was an important thing to call out in the early game for LNG. If they were going to get those 1v1, 2v2 leads, it was going to be very scary, but Junhao once again trying to make a play on this top side.
Young doesn't have much health bar to work with. Junhao will have to be the one to kind of block that damage down with the turret, and the wave getting cleared. Ultra Prime gonna add another body to the mix, but I don't think that fixes things here because the wave is just in a very awkward spot. Young trying to get Zika to come out a little bit more out of his shell. Zika playing very reserved as he's going to now step up. Still no vision. Public execution into the flash combo. They commit everything to take down Zika, and they will end up getting that kill over to Xiaoxia.
Yeah, it's a really nice counterplay made here by Ultra Prime. They understand that they don't really feel like they can contest over this dragon. They want to leave it up. They don't feel like they need to put the resources down there to worry about it. And so what else on the map can we potentially get? Well, Zika is a target on the top side, especially if the team is going to be focusing on dragon. A lot burned there from Ultra Prime, but it is a play that's definitely worth making, and even with the respect, I really like the idea. Getting gold onto the Xinjiao is very important to move around for the rest of this game, but a major trade in the mid lane for Haichao.
Haichao getting the better of Saber here in that one. Wako had moved up preemptively up towards topside ahead of these grub spawns. He's going to pick up a plate for himself, so that's actually really good allocation of resources going to Wako as they're going to be getting ready for this top lane scuffle. That dragon did end up going to Xiaofeng as he took that bot side pressure. And look at that vision from LNG, all centered around bot side. But they are going to need to maybe readapt that focus here. You want to try to get as many of those grubs as you can. It would be 5 total for LNG. Could be 4, though, if they leave Ultra Prime to get theirs.
That's a very big power spike for LNG with this comp, is to be able to make sure that in a side lane, you're always going to have that pressure. Whether it's Zika or whether it's Haichao, you need to make sure that you're in a spot to be able to push. Now, the setup for this becomes a bit more complicated if you don't have Aurora there, which does seem to be the case for now. They don't want to set up around the Aurora with the teleport. I understand that for sure, but you need to make sure that you are there first. Skarner applies so much more pressure, and of course Renata applies so much more pressure if you're able to set up around that pit. And so I would imagine that both of them are going to be pathing there as of now. I would have liked to seen the Renata there a bit earlier, but with Wako in the mid lane, it does still feel like they should have full control over it. And I think the most interesting thing for me is going to be where Saber ends up wanting to go with that ultimate. What exactly he wants to take and what he feels like is the most important thing to grab right now. But as you can see, it's actually Ultra Prime first here on these grubs.
Yeah, Xiaofeng very late out of that reset in his base, but the big thing here, I feel, is that nobody has hit that first item precipice except for now, I guess, Xiaofeng as he redeployed with the Heartsteel, but the top laners, both with a lot of lethality packing before this grub spike kicks off. It will still be Young on the bot side, does have TP. Zika is still hanging out on this top side, trying to get the push ahead of this one. Xiaofeng going to start it up. The back came through from Junhao, and they just give it?
Yeah, they have to be seeding it. There's no way you can try and make a play here, even with Wako. They're on vision. They understand that they are here. This is a very dangerous situation for Ultra Prime. You do not want your misfortune caught out, but Haichao's waiting in the bush.
Wako tries to step up, almost gets caught there. Stalls impact in between worlds. Junhao has walked all the way from base, and now the bullet time coming through. And public execution went completely wide. Junhao is going to flash out now. He's in the middle of the tussle. Bailout coming through, but can't save LP. And Ultra Prime, they are skirmishing right with the best of them here in LNG. But a big handshake gets Saber taken down, and now it's Young in the middle of everybody. That's a double kill coming through for him, but all his teammates are gone, and so is he. Xiaoxia gonna be ran down, shock blast to the back, and that'll be a double kill for Zika.
What a chaotic fight. That looked like it could have gone 100 different directions every single second, but it ends up being a really nice fight for LNG. They had established that priority earlier, and honestly, it looked like a terrible fight for Ultra Prime at the start, but they're able to pull it back with some really chaotic skirmishes. Haichao plays this fight incredibly well. You can see the ult popped early there from Saber to try and lock them in, but a fantastic ultimate from Xiaofeng to be able to grab Wako, interrupt that bullet time, try to combo it up with the Renata. Unfortunately here, they just don't have the damage to actually burst down Junhao fast enough, and he gets his full combo off, and that is a problem for LNG. Luckily, they were able to survive it. You don't have any major casualties, and from here on out, you just have more damage. You certainly had more setup, but these are fights between two chaotic, very creative and interesting teams, and, you know, I'm interested to see what they do with it. This is a big win, though, for LNG, and especially getting that gold onto Jace, onto Zika. That makes things a lot harder for Ultra Prime in terms of trying to contest and walk up to these objectives, specifically Dragon in a minute.
Yes, I think Haichao deserves a little bit of praise here, but Xiaofeng, man, why was this guy start? Why did they bring this guy in earlier? My God! Like, going from the Lilligant gameplay to now being 100% KP in this early game for LNG. I mean, this guy might just be the difference maker for the start of the comeback of LNG.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Junhao and how important it was. Oh, but we could see him play mid.
Yeah, it's fine. It's
you
fine.
know.
Happens.
LP just a little bit overextended there, but that's all right. That will likely be Dragon priority entirely to Ultra Prime. That's a really nice get for them. We'll see if they want to try and, you know, interrupt this stacking, but that's the kind of play Junhao needed to make. I was going to say, Xiaofeng doing a great job, but he's looking to pull something back.
Oh, they have the Impale, get the preemptive flash out of Young, so that will be getting away from what was about to be Lockdown City onto him. But this also gives pressure to LNG on the bot side of the map to potentially get this second Dragon for themselves. Not only that, but looking at first turret as well with that Demolish proc. That'll be easy, does it? So massive map wins for LNG.
Yeah, it's just staying aggressive. It's making sure to understand that when a play goes wrong, it's probably going right somewhere else, and Xiaofeng doing a great job of understanding that we put pressure into the mid lane, they put pressure into the mid lane, we can pull it back in the bot lane, we can focus this Ambessa and burst it down. It's very difficult for Junhao to do anything from this point on the Xin Zhao. we were talking about needing that aggressive nature. That's what LNG has shown a ton of. Confidence, aggressiveness, you know, the willingness to go for a lot of these trades, and that's what I need to see now out of Ultra Prime. You're still not out of this game by any means. There still are a lot of ways to pull it back. I'm gonna need to see Saber really start to step up, and you know, with Dragons not necessarily being a win condition, potentially an out for Ultra Prime, this Rift Herald might matter a lot for them.
And Rift Herald would be so massive for LNG side of things as well with those 5 grubs, but just trying to utilize that pressure. And I think Ultra Prime still have a lot going for them in their comp setup, but again, their bar of execution felt a little bit higher in this situation, especially with the way that they have to intro into fights and that they have to rely on a lot of very particular skill shots to make it in. And I think now with this first item spike, they're going to feel a little bit more confident onto that. But I definitely am waiting for that kind of second, third item spike for them to really feel okay in these fights.
Yeah, it's just so tough when you don't really have the damage to be able to break through a team with so much engage. We highlighted this in draft, but the ease of execution for LNG is massive, and we see that setup now around Rift Herald. There's just no way in. We talked about the poke earlier on in the game. That is superb area control, but we're going to see Ultra Prime at least attempt to try and get in potentially here.
And when you go in, you have the problem of the hostile takeover. Zhuo is just waiting for you to go full ham. And here it goes, speaking of, into the impale, into the target. Junhao having a dumpster. And as he's put into it here by LNG. And Ultra Prime trying to get a fadeaway bullet time. But this has been a jungle diff all series long.
It's indecision for Ultra Prime, and this fight's not even over. It's this understanding that Rift Herald's gone. This objective is not takeable. They have full control of this. You know you're walking into a Renata ultimate. You know you're walking into Jace Shock Blast, and yet you stick around. You stay looking for these fights that you know are winnable. And the Rift Herald's gonna get both of the mid turrets here. It's just a disaster for Ultra Prime. Everything going wrong once again because of just some overstaying. I think if this team really wants to project out into the future, they need to be able to identify what fights they can and cannot take, and unfortunately, it's just been a little bit of a struggle, but you're right. The jungle gap here has been ginormous, and Zhaofeng has been exceptional on this Skarner.
Dude, I'm geeking out, man. LNG showing up as they cross the halfway point of their Group Nirvana series 0-2. They're looking at potentially taking a 2-0 over Ultra Prime. Like, that is not a world I would expect to be in, and it is a world that LNG is going to be very happy with. Even with this bullet time, they aren't able to get very much back. It felt a little bit desperate from Ultra Prime, but getting caught out like that is so difficult against this comp.
Yeah, you just can't step up against the Skarner. You can't step up against Zhaofeng. You can't step up against Zhuo. Like, they're all going to catch you out very regularly. And once again, it's just the mid-game pressure from LNG that ends up separating them. And now as you project forward, the objectives are really going to start spawning in about a minute and a half, a little over a minute and a half. Not only will Dragon be up, and that's third Drake for LNG, projecting that they want to try and get that win condition, which I think would be huge for them. Otacon is also going to be on the map. You cannot allow that if you are Ultra Prime. That is almost certainly going to be, you know, a game-losing kind of decision there. But how do you enter these fights? It's going to need to be early setups. You need to start establishing pressure in the next minute or so, and you got to make sure you're first, or else you're going to be in a really bad spot.
Yeah, a Mountain Dragon as well, a Mountain Soul for LNG would be so hard to handle. And you can see exactly why this map has gotten a little bit out of sorts for Ultra Prime. It's because there's a ton of gold in Zika's pocket and Haichao's pocket. It really has been a story of the solo lanes in this second game. And it's been really nice to see the more veteran members, I guess, of the LPL. I mean, I know Zhuo is down there as well, but it's really nice to see these puzzle pieces kind of working out. And again, starting off the day, it was all about how these two guys, Zika and Haichao, can really play around and enable Zhaofeng in goods and in facilitations. And I mean, he's sitting at 100% KP. The guy's been a legend.
Yeah, I mean, we expected this out of Zika. This is a player that we know can be a top-tier top laner, a world's caliber top laner coming out of the LPL, but it's so nice to see Haichao start to get some confidence back after what's been a pretty rough start to the year for him, but more plays happening on the bot side here, and could potentially see Ultra Prime overextend once again. They just can't leave their base. The line of engage is very low, and Zhang's learning that the hard way.
That will be the public execution down. Second item spikes coming in for LNG, but now Saber with the TP. Gonna miss the abduct Oh no, starting off here with the missed skill shots, but here comes the wind becomes lightning. This is an overextension from Ultra Prime, but maybe they could get something going. Haichao over the wall, goes with the Between Worlds, tries to get back to the fight, and LNG now taking on to Wako. Wako was by himself. LNG re-engaged on by Xiaoxia, but Saber, he finally comes over the wall. He's about to go down too. My God, LNG! They finally show up here when they're on the precipice of death, when they're on the verge of going 0-3 Group Nirvana, and they are trashing Ultra Prime.
Mazel, you gotta love it when a plan comes together. You gotta love it when a decision to bring in a new jungler ignites so much fire into the hearts of the other players on the team. What a great fight from LNG. They fought it on 2 different fronts. They survived a teleport flank, they survived a re-engage, and they came out on top. This dragon is theirs. That's 3rd dragon that puts them on soul point moving in to the next 5 minutes of the game, and that could potentially be the nail in the coffin as we look forward for Ultra Prime. Let's look at this replay. Just, it's an understandable play to try to make, but Saber immediately missing the chains puts them already on the back foot. It's not a great start. Zika is chunked out early, but you're not hitting the priority target here. It's a beautiful ultimate from Xiaofeng, and then Haichao is able to really get in there and start putting out that damage on Aurora. You try to pull back here for Xiaoxia, but once again, it's Wako, it's Xiaoxia not being on the same page. It's a beautiful flash from Haichao to stay alive, and Saber, nothing left to give on the back end of this fight. Again, I understand the willingness to try to go for a play like that, but it's beautifully played by LNG, and now when you're looking at what is on the table for them moving forward, you've got Baron spawning in 3 minutes, Otacon is up, and it does look like that's going to be the posture, but I have a hard time finding a way for Ultra Prime to get in here.
It was really good coordination as well with LP in the middle of that. I mean, really like untouched in that whole thing, doing percentage health damage to everybody around him too. And this, I think if you look at LNG, you're like, where has this team been? What the hell is this performance compared to what we've seen from them before? And they've had some of the most tragic games of the split so far. But if you look at one thing that's been constant in this series, it has been this top trio of Zika, Xiaofeng, and Haichao. They are almost all on 100% KP. And that's a boon for LNG's win conditions.
It's just been across the board for them, and I think that's been the most impressive. Otacon now obviously up. Looks like they're going to take this relatively uncontested. Junhao making his way up. He's going to be late to this, but it's going to take a miracle for Ultra Prime to be able to get in. Xiaoxia is going to be looking for a potential engage here. Does not have the flash available. That would be essential, but this thing is burning down fast.
And here comes Junhao. Maybe the steal wind becomes lightning. They fight off and they get the steal. GA's completed. Immediately going to be popped though. Look at LP. He's ticking away at Saber. Saber healing up, but he goes down too. Those GAs will be for naught as they will all fall together. LNG with an ace, but the Otacon GAs will come through for Ultra Prime.
It's a really, really sloppy fight there coming in from LNG at the start. You've got all these tools to be able to dissuade them from getting in, and it turns into a 50-50. Junhao is able to get the smite off, but that is huge for Ultra Prime, not only because it denies it from LNG, but mostly just because if you go in there and you don't get that smite, that is terrifying. You get aced in the same way, but no GAs to bring you back. Obviously, this doesn't turn the game at all, but it's nice to be able to see Ultra Prime not scared to make some plays. We'll see if they have that same kind of confidence as we move into Baron in a minute. The setup is definitely there from Ultra Prime. You look at the vision on the map, it's going to be free to set up for LNG throughout the entirety of this top side. We can see that pressure already starting. Haichao is going to get that push or be able to catch that wave on the bottom side to set up for that pressure, and Xiaoxia just has nothing to do in the area. He's got to back out.
Now, on that soul point, 2 minutes there until Dragon spawns, but more so it's the 5,000 gold lead LNG have developed. Already 3rd item completed for Zika. The Serpent's Fang also, by the way. So all that shielding can be non-existent for Ultra Prime if Zika is in the fight. The Baron coming up in 20, and honestly, with LP being this attack speed on hit Varus, they could absolutely take it with that 2nd item spike there. Does look like they might just go for the reset instead. And so now we have to look at Ultra Prime's side of things. Their decision making moving forward, how they find these fights with this 2nd item completion for majority members.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a way to get in, you have to hope that LNG just doesn't do their homework in terms of their setup. there still are a lot of opportunities. You have engaged threats here, especially with Sylas potentially stealing a Renata ultimate. There are many options for this team to be able to find and engage. It is going to be the Baron priority over Dragon. I agree with this, with Dragon spawning in a minute. I feel like you should be trying to pressure out this Baron, forcing Ultra Prime in, but we'll see if they actually potentially want to look for a pick. It's actually Xiaofeng sitting in the bush here, trying to get that push in the mid lane. We'll see once Haichao gets in if they want to continue to push here, if they want to continue to try to look for these picks, or if Baron's going to be the goal. It looks like they're not so worried about the objective, at least for now.
Going to try to get a pick wherever they can. They're going to move over Zika from that bot lane, push to this mid lane. All 5 grouping up in the mid lane, looking for the shock blast from Zika to get some of this poke down. Xiaofeng ready on the trigger with the impale, just in case anybody from Ultra Prime overextends. This is a high-stress situation for Ultra Prime. See if they can handle it here. Wako getting some preemptive damage in, but the blast cone will end up getting the rest of LNG over the wall and ready for this dragon that spawns in 10 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, LNG have full control of this pit, and we can see that.
Instant Magnet Storm back. Zika obliterates Wako. You blink and you miss it. Ultra Prime trying to fight their way out of this one, but they do not exist in the same realm that LNG do in this series, in this Summoner's Rift. And Saber are going to be ran down by Haichao too. Dragon going to be started up by LNG, and this is a LNG dominated map. Go ahead and signal the dominance of the chillin'.
It is LNG's world, and we are just living in it in this series. They have done everything that they need to do to prove that this new version of this team is not just good enough to be able to survive bottom 2, but they could be good enough to potentially make a run at the end of this group Nirvana. That fight was just so clinical.
Do you imagine? Could you imagine going 0-2 and then having a reverse sweep of? Oh my god! I don't want to get too far ahead of
the 3 and 2 is alive, Mazel. You have to believe what I'm seeing on my screen is belief, because this team is playing so clean. They set up everything they needed to do. They understood that Baron didn't need to be an immediate priority for them. That getting that Mountain Soul was going to be a huge problem, as you stated earlier. And one of the things that I really want to call out, we noted earlier, of course, it is on hit Varus, but we have yet to talk about just how much that's affected the way that Ultra Prime has needed to play out. Not only these fights, but their setups, because they can't reliably get in. They just have to play so scared like they are here.
Zhuo can play aggressive on the Renata of all picks here, which is a heck of a sight to see. Public execution goes wide for Jung. And now LNG, they're like blood on from the wolves here. They want to try to find the pick in the Between Worlds on a 3. They're not able to get anybody there. It's Young going to be forced out of the rest of the fight. And I think the reason why you could start getting a little hype for this LNG team is because they have already lost and faced the 2 top teams, the 2 top dogs in Group Nirvana, and now all they have left is Ultra Prime, OMG, and RNG. And Ultra Prime looking to give them this first win of the split here in Group Nirvana. I don't know, Ultra Prime feeling a little bit wary to move over. Baron had already been started by LNG with this attack speed. Zika! Oh my god, man! Leave him alone! Saber goes for the hostile takeover, only hits onto 1 member. Bullet time gonna melt Zika's health there, though, and Ultra Prime, they're gonna lose another one. They're gonna lose Salcia as well. And Saber and Wako have headed for the hills here, but Haichao try to run down Wako. He does have that strut, so he should be able to make it out, and Saber as well will find an exit, but it is straight up the gut and straight down mid lane for LNG.
Oh man, Ultra Prime was hoping and praying that they would catch somebody out, but it was their own top laner. It was their own top laner who was in absolutely terrible danger and who ends up getting blown up super early into that fight. Zika feeling so confident he's willing to tank the entirety of the bullet time, but LNG once again just proving that 5v5 in these fights, if you walk up to them, they are going to obliterate you, and that Nexus might be the next thing going down.
Absolutely wild. As they're going to be pushed out of this final attack here. The Baron buff is still up for 2 minutes. They're going to TP into the top side with Zika. Come rejoin this fight and get this push going into another inhib. These are the only 2 lanes of pressure they have right now. Bot lane will be joining shortly, but here goes the Between Worlds, and here goes the kick off the party. Impale going to go completely wide from Xiaofeng, but Haichao has bought enough time, bought enough separation to take down Saber with LP. Now it's Young overextends his hand. Zika finds the kill on Xiaoxia in the base. The shock blast hits his heart, and Junhao will also be taken low by Zika. LNG have just blasted Ultra Prime in a 2-0, and this is the team we were waiting for to give us a little bit of gumption here in Group Nirvana. A 2-0 and a first series win for LNG.
What a series for LNG. We wanted to see something out of this team. We wanted to see this team, come out and show that the roster change was warranted. They didn't just come out and show the roster change was warranted. They came out with fire. This is a terrifying performance if you are one of the other teams that is in danger of being bottom 2 in Group Nirvana, because if I'm looking at my chances after this, LNG looks completely reinvigorated. They look like they have a new lease on life, and hopefully they're going to be able to keep that momentum.
And Xiaofeng might have just come away with 2 MVPs in his first 2 games of the split here. Like this was an impeccable performance from this guy. And I know we had high expectations from him, even if that last little bit on OMG was a little bit tough. A lot of red in that lost column. It was what we saw from him before, and especially in spring, that got us excited for this guy. So really nice to see him get his chance. Look at those sneaky little smiles. Took them a second to realize what you have to do when you win, and it's nice to get that feeling for this squad. Again, giving Nirvana a little bit more action here, as they don't get as many games, but boy, is it fun.
Yeah, I mean, Xiaofeng was unbelievable today. I'd be remiss to not point out the solo laners, who I thought were exceptional in that game number 2. Haichao being able to get such a big gold lead individually 1v1 early on mattered a ton for the pressure that they were able to get in that mid game. Helps out Xiaofeng. And Zika, what a game from Zika. Those snipes at the end with those shock blasts. He felt so confident he was willing to take full bullet times, and a lot of the time he was safe in those regards as well. Just a ridiculous performance from LNG across the board.
God, man. LNG have done it. LNG have done it, man. They got a win. That's honestly all you could ask for, and it was in a dominant fashion as well. You'd love to see it, but I think for Ultra Prime, they're going to be scratching their heads a little bit on how this went down, what exactly happened. It's going to feel like a whirlwind at this point, because they did lose 2 very one-sided games off the back of some pretty tough individual mistakes. So I think coming back to the table for them and moving forward, you have to think about how you can shore up that consistency. And I think the draft has to be the primary point.
Yeah, one of the things we really hyped up about Ultra Prime coming into this series was that they had such a good sense of identity, that they really understood what they were good at and what they were comfortable playing around. That wasn't really here today. It felt like they kind of took themselves out of their own comfort zone. Junhao has loved to be on these carries, on, champions that want to be facilitated. The Neferi obviously comes to mind, but, Lilia can kind of fall into that regard as well. And instead, we saw a Junhao that was a little bit more passive, a little bit more kind of reliant on others to make plays. I think that was not the version of Ultra Prime that we really needed to see, and certainly wasn't the version that we had gotten used to in their successes. I'm expecting to see some adjustments, just kind of getting back into their comfort zone. Again, we'll see what happens. I don't think Saber played particularly well today either, and I think losing the middle of the map can be a bit tricky, but a lot to build on for Ultra Prime. There are definitely easy ways to grow and learn from this that I think they'll take away, and I think we'll see more of them in the future.
I'm so sad. I'm literally on the verge of tears. My 9-game dream, I just watched it crumble between my fingers at the hands of LNG of all people. What the hell, man? I wanted 9 games. That's what I signed up for. Man.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, LNG had to show up today and look the best they've looked all year.
I guess.
How unfortunate for us, but
yeah, how unfortunate. We do take a look at it. It's a very one-sided game. I think the biggest thing that's going to stand out to me is that kill participation for LNG. They were everywhere and together. And I think getting so close to having 4 members at 100% KP just tells that story.
Yeah, I think that there are a couple of takeaways here. Not only the gold graph, obviously, but Saber doing less damage than Xiaofeng on the other side of that matchup is usually not a particularly good sign that things are going well for the Silas. But we can see in some of these replays, these highlights that we are getting from some of these fights, the setups just weren't there. LNG did a great job of making sure they were first to a lot of these objectives. And you look at Skarner, you look at Renata. How do you engage on these champions? And even the Varus and the Jace make it so hard to walk up. And with that kind of priority, Ultra Prime was always going to be on the back foot. And, you know, they weren't able to get in. And unfortunately, once that gold goes over, it's there permanently. You don't get to get those back.
And Zika was feeling himself with these accelerated shock blasts multiple times, finding big picks. For me, it was that pick under Dragon Pit where he goes over the wall and just one-taps Wako completely from 100 to 0. It's just like, my God, Jace is a menace. Lethality Jace is an absolute menace.
Yeah, and that's what you can put together when you build that on-hit Varus. You can put together a pretty scary duo because it gives you that consistent teamfight option, and it allows Zika the luxury of just saying, I'm going to delete people this game. That's my job. I'm not doing anything else. I'm just going to make sure that somebody is gone at the start of that fight. And he definitely succeeded there. A lot of backline access, of course, but it really was this Otacon fight that was maybe the only glimmer of hope that Ultra Prime had, and even then they got 5-0 aced.
Yeah. Hey, they all looked really cool together when they were coming back from base, when they got put back into base, you know.
Little team photo.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
That's team bonding. Yeah. Team bonding. Coming back from Atacon GA together. This is it. This is it. So literally Zika just waits, shock blast, flash, combo, dead. Get off my screen, Zika says.
Oh man. Yeah. It's just disrespectful. I mean,
again,
really, it's
boom damage, man. I don't know what to say. Like that's the scripting words that come to my mind. Boom damage for Zika.
Yeah, and you know, I think this is equally as disrespectful as Zika saying, I don't really care about the bullet time. I'll sit in the whole thing. I'll take the death.
Take all thousands of the damage.
Yeah, it does not matter to me at this point. I'm going to do so much damage in the meantime that I don't even really care. You get into this fight. This is a little sloppy from LNG. They miss a couple ultimates going through here, but they're just so far ahead. It's so easy from this point. It doesn't matter. Zika's able to output so much damage. Even LP at this point is able to basically one-shot everybody in the game as long as he has enough time. It's just a difficult way to play out, but it's just an across-the-board win for LNG. It's everyone. You got to credit all 5 members. They all stepped up today.
From only winning a couple times on blue side to fighting one time on blue side, sorry, to fighting 2 over 10,000 gold lead wins. Like, I am still mind blown that this is the way that we start our night here. Obviously 3 best of 3s that we expected to go all the way to 3 games for each one, but LNG take their first win of the season, and that's going to be feeling really good for them. I have such a hard time giving MVP. Honestly, though, I have to say, like, I would just give it to Xiaofeng outright because somehow this guy has made everything work on LNG's team, even though we got some really good performances from the solo lanes and from support for the team.
Yeah, you can pinpoint 2 or 3 fights that were instantly won by Xiaofeng, but it's Zika. I mean, hey, I can't be mad at the Chase.
All right.
The crazy Chase, 88% KP for the top laner here. It does kind of show you just how crazy this game ended up being, but I certainly can't be mad at Zika. I thought he had an incredible game, especially in those mid-game fights. Obviously, he was able to generate that lead in the early game that established a ton of pressure, but, I mean, it really was the flashy plays that came in for him later on.
Well, K-Man, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to cover this series with you. I'm sorry we didn't get to go to 3. I'm sorry we didn't get more games together, but it was an absolute pleasure. I had a blast. You have any takeaways from this series or getting ready for that next series?
I can't wait for LNG to get that 3-2 revenge, and boy, can I not wait to watch the next series. I think we are in for a treat in Series 2 here today.
We have dubbed it our match of the week for this week. BLG versus Top Esports coming at you after a short break.